You hear him on the station. You read him at brownzone.com, the Elyria Chronicle Telegram. Let's find out if Scott Petrak is smashing the over on that 5.5 win total. Good morning, Scott.
What's going on, fellas?
You taking the over on the 5.5 wins like Jimmy Haslam is?
I think so, but I'm an optimist. So,
Scott, I asked Daryl before the break, were you surprised that he said that out loud? Because it does kind of put a number on Todd Monken's first season coaching the team, does it not?
What if I told you that after just 4 days of Browns training camp, one quarterback has already separated himself from the competition? And according to one of the most respected Browns reporters covering the team every single day, it's not the veteran. Scott Petrak just delivered one of the clearest evaluations we've heard yet, saying Shedeur Sanders has been clearly better than Deshaun Watson so far in camp. But that's only part of the story. Jimmy Haslam made a surprising statement about the Browns' expectations this season. Todd Monken continues to reshape the culture inside the building. Rookie receiver Denzel Boston keeps making highlight plays, and one young running back looks fully recovered and ready for a breakout season.
it does, and I am surprised. Part of me is surprised because it's a gambling phrase, right? And
yeah, right.
I've still been around a long time, and remember when that was taboo to talk about gambling. Now, obviously, less so, and I'm sure Jimmy's making a ton of money off the gambling deals that the league has. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised by that.
Let's break down everything Scott Petrak revealed from Browns training camp. One of the biggest talking points wasn't even about the quarterbacks. It started with owner Jimmy Haslam discussing expectations for this season. Haslam openly referenced the Browns' projected win total and suggested he expects Cleveland to finish with more than 5.5 victories. That may not sound like a huge statement, but longtime Browns reporter Scott Petrak admitted he was surprised the owner actually said it publicly. For years, NFL owners avoided talking about betting lines or gambling altogether. Now, Haslam casually referenced the number, showing just how much the league has changed.
But I was. And then, yeah, it's interesting when you bring in the Todd Monken perspective. Jimmy's kind of been like that way throughout his ownership. Now, I think at 1 year he talked about, I forget the exact phrasing he used, but, if they didn't get better or if they didn't make the playoffs, like he put kind of an ultimatum on the coaching staff. And he's moved away from that because that bit him and it didn't work out well and it creates pressure and expectations. So he has softened those expectations.
More importantly, Petrak believes it also sends a message to Todd Monken in his first year leading the football team. While Haslam stopped short of giving a specific win target, saying the Browns should comfortably exceed 5 wins naturally creates expectations. After all, Cleveland won 5 games last season. The organization believes this roster is better. So naturally, they expect better results. It's not exactly playoff or bust pressure, but it does establish a baseline. Winning only 5 games again would likely be viewed as a disappointment. Another major takeaway from camp has been the culture.
And he even did that this week when we talked to him. He wasn't ready to, give a number or anything, but then he almost like he can't help himself. It says, well, I think we should win more than 5.5. So I think the thinking behind it is they won 5 games last year. They thought they should have won more. They made changes. They think they're better this year. So, 6 wins should not be any kind of reach, right? That's just should be expected.
One question surrounding Todd Monken's arrival was simple. Will the players buy in? According to Scott Petrak, everything he's seen suggests the answer is yes. Players appear energized. Practices have been competitive. The coaching staff has everyone's attention. That led to an interesting discussion involving the Browns' decision to move on from Myles Garrett. One radio host suggested that Garrett's departure may have partially been about finding players fully committed to Monken's new vision. Scott Petrak wasn't buying that theory. He defended Garrett, pointing out that despite his unique personality and occasional distance from the organization, Garrett always played extremely hard and remained incredibly productive.
But it certainly does put a fine point on it.
Aside from the quarterback competition, we'll get to that in a second, Scott. Been talking a lot this morning about buy-in, and it really feels like that, at least through this point, everyone's really bought in to Todd Monken. And that was one of the questions I had when they they hired him, and I was so skeptical of the hire. Would these guys buy in? And I also now theorize, I just had an epiphany this morning, that one of the reasons Miles isn't here, and they made the Myles Garrett trade, aside from getting Jared Verse and the draft compensation from the Rams.
Petrak believes Garrett would have fit just fine under Monken. Instead, he thinks the trade had far more to do with the Browns' long-term roster strategy than any concerns about buy-in. Still, one thing everyone agrees on is how energized Jared Verse has looked since arriving in Cleveland. Verse has brought nonstop energy to practice. He's vocal. He's encouraging teammates. He's active every snap. And Petrak can't wait to see what happens once the pads come on, because that's when defensive linemen truly separate themselves. Before diving into the quarterback battle, Scott Petrak made something very clear. The Browns' defense has controlled training camp.
Buy-in. Like, Garrett made it very clear. He didn't really seem to want to buy in. The Popeyes exhausted worker meme that he posted after Todd was hired, the limited contact with the organization, right? Everything that he had said the year before. I mean, do you think I'm a little out of line in thinking that, hey, you know what? Yeah, Miles is a future Hall of Famer and a great player, and he owns a bunch of Browns records, and he'll forever be a Brown, but like...
Not every single play, not every single drive, but across the first 4 practices, the defense has consistently won. Pass rushers have lived in the offensive backfield. Multiple sacks have piled up. Quarterbacks rarely look comfortable. Offensive rhythm has been difficult to establish. Petrak expects things to balance out somewhat once players put the pads on. Offensive linemen can finally engage defenders physically instead of simply mirroring them during non-contact periods. But for now, the defense has clearly had the upper hand. That context matters when evaluating every quarterback, because no passer is operating in ideal conditions. Now let's talk about the biggest headline. Scott Petrak didn't hesitate.
Don't really need to go through the buy-in thing with this guy again, and you get a young player like Jared Verse, and you've seen it out there like I have, who's very vocal. He's on his teammates. He's high energy, and you know he's all in despite leaving a Super Bowl contender to come here to Cleveland.
Well, I do think it's unfair to put that on Miles, Daryl. I don't. I mean, I know that he wasn't here in the off season, but he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's a different dude. We've known him. We were around him for 9 years.
When comparing the quarterbacks through 4 practices, he said Shedeur Sanders has been clearly better than Deshaun Watson. That's a significant statement, especially coming from someone who's watched every practice. According to Petrak, Watson struggled badly on day 1. While he's improved since then, the inconsistency remains. One good throw, then 2 inaccurate ones. That pattern has continued from off-season workouts into training camp. Perhaps even more concerning, Watson has thrown multiple interceptions, roughly 6 over 4 practices. Regardless of whether it's early August or late December, turnovers always get noticed. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders has protected the football much better. He finally threw his first interception, and Petrak believes he probably should have had another. But overall, Sanders has consistently made better decisions. He's also delivered several throws every day that Petrak described as big time. Not flashy every snap. Not forcing impossible passes. Just efficient, smart football. There was one practice filled mostly with checkdowns. Another featured several aggressive downfield completions. The point is simple. Sanders hasn't dominated camp, but compared to Watson, he's been a better quarterback. Before Browns fans start declaring a winner, Scott Petrak also shared an important reminder. Todd Monken continues emphasizing that training camp isn't just about completed passes and interceptions. The coaching staff evaluates everything. How quickly quarterbacks break the huddle, communication, play calls, pre-snap adjustments, reading defensive coverages, protection checks, footwork, leadership, decision-making. Many of these things aren't visible from the sidelines. Fans only see where the football goes. Coaches see everything else. That's why Monken keeps reminding everyone that the evaluation process extends far beyond statistics. Petrak agrees. He believes Sanders likely holds the lead today. But he also acknowledges Watson's experience could still matter in areas fans simply can't observe. The race remains open. However, after 4 practices, momentum belongs to Shedeur Sanders. While everyone focuses on quarterbacks, one rookie continues making highlight after highlight. Wide receiver Denzel Boston. Scott Petrak admitted he's almost ignoring the rest of the rookie class because Boston keeps demanding attention. The chemistry between Sanders and Boston showed up immediately during off-season workouts. Now it's continuing during training camp. One play especially stood out. Sanders launched a beautiful pass down the right sideline. Boston climbed above the defender and secured an impressive contested catch. It became one of the highlights of practice. But Petrak says that's not even why he's impressed. The real surprise? Boston's route running. At 6'4" and over 210 pounds, many expected him to rely mainly on contested catches. Instead, he's consistently creating separation, especially on comeback routes against veteran corner Tyson Campbell. That's difficult to do against experienced NFL defensive backs. Yet Boston keeps doing it. He gets in and out of breaks efficiently, creates throwing windows, presents a massive target for quarterbacks, and continues catching everything thrown his direction. If this continues, Boston could become one of the biggest steals from Cleveland's rookie class. Another encouraging development involves rookie running back Quinshon Judkins. Considering the serious lower leg injury he suffered previously, many wondered whether he'd be ready for camp. Scott Petrak says those concerns are disappearing quickly. Judkins looks explosive, confident, healthy. There was one run that immediately caught Petrak's attention. Judkins planted his foot, exploded through the hole, and accelerated effortlessly. That one cut convinced Petrak that the running back is fully recovered. Running backs coach Duce Staley has already spoken highly of Judkins. Petrak believes Cleveland plans to give him plenty of opportunities, not only as a runner, but also catching passes out of the backfield. If he stays healthy, he could become one of the offense's biggest weapons this season. The Browns also made headlines by extending Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit. Scott Petrak believes those moves reveal exactly how Cleveland views its future. Yes, the Browns have become younger. Yes, they're building for tomorrow. Trading Myles Garrett and acquiring additional draft capital proves that. But they're also refusing to completely rebuild. Instead, they're trying to compete now while preparing for later. Keeping veterans like Ward and Delpit sends a strong message. The Browns aren't tanking. They're not tearing everything down. They're trying to balance immediate competitiveness with long-term development. It's a difficult strategy, but Petrak respects it. If those veterans continue playing at a high level, the extensions could look brilliant. After 4 practices, several themes are becoming impossible to ignore. The defense has dominated. Todd Monken appears to have the entire organization pulling in the same direction. Denzel Boston is quickly becoming one of camp's biggest surprises. Quinshon Judkins looks completely healthy. And perhaps most importantly, Scott Petrak believes Shedeur Sanders currently holds the edge over Deshaun Watson. Is the competition over? Absolutely not. The pads haven't even come on yet. Joint practices and preseason games will reveal far more than early August practices ever could. But momentum matters. Confidence matters. And right now, that momentum belongs to Shedeur Sanders. The next week of training camp may determine whether he can turn that early advantage into a legitimate opportunity to become Cleveland's starting quarterback. If he continues stacking strong practices, the pressure on the Browns coaching staff will only continue to grow. What do you think? Has Shedeur Sanders done enough to deserve the early lead over Deshaun Watson? Or is it still far too early to judge? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like the video, subscribe for daily Browns coverage, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates from training camp.